He'll be here in a minute, the guest. I'm just going to pick it up and go. Got me, everyone? Hear us good? Yes, we are back for hour number 2, live from Raiders headquarters. I'm streaming live for the first time on my YouTube channel, JT the Brick YT. If you're on YouTube, you came over from the Raiders YouTube page where we had what a first hour of that show. Antonio Pierce was on fire. He was on fire having the coach on. That was pretty cool. Then we had on Levi Edwards and Lincoln Kennedy. I've already interviewed Rich Gannon this week. Tomorrow, Fred Bolitnikoff. He's like my second dad. I only have one dad, my all-time hero. Fred Bolitnikoff's like a second important person in my life at that level. And then Friday confirmed, Charles Woodson. See Wood, getting ready, Charles Woodson, courtesy of Woodson Bourbon Whiskey. So we're excited. That's a big week. If you told me before the start of the week, it'd be Gannon, Eric Allen, Lincoln Kennedy, Antonio Pierce. Oh, Tom Telesco. You hear this? Tom Telesco yesterday. That's up at Raiders.com. And Tashan Reed is going to join us here coming up momentarily. We're going to talk to him from The Athletic. So he's coming up, and he'll jump into the seat. And we're doing a lot of live stuff today. Radio is always live, right? Radio's live. But a lot of times we do TV, it's live to tape, or we do something and then we air it a little bit later. Coach walked in in the middle of the show because that's when he was doing it. And now Tashan's going to walk in as we keep going with him. And we're on to Carolina. I know that sounds very Belichickian, but we are on to Carolina. And my level of concern is real because I know Carolina's a pretty good team and Carolina's excellent. They're going to play better football this year. And we got to make sure that Carolina is taken seriously. We welcome in Tashan Reed, the senior writer for The Athletic, who just came off of the Antonio Pierce press conference. We had AP up here a little while ago, and he just jumped in with you guys downstairs, Tashan. And what are you noticing about his demeanor? First off, welcome. Thanks for coming up.
Appreciate you having me back on.
Yeah, good to have you.
I mean, he's in a good mood, coming off a huge win on the road against the Ravens. 10-point comeback in the fourth quarter. Big win for the team morale. Obviously, every win's important, but I think in that setting, going against an opponent like that, I know the Ravens are winless this season, but that's still a really good team, the number one seed AFC last year. And so it's a pretty huge one. And the way that they won it was an emotional win as well.
How did you see the game develop when it was developing in the fourth quarter? I could see if the Raiders were tied or down 3, maybe they win the game, but they're down 10 at one point. Everything needed to be almost perfect. And in the final 12 minutes and 10 seconds, with all those scores and the defense holding back Lamar, that was kind of perfect football.
Yeah, I mean, even in the third quarter, going back to that, I mean, the Ravens came down to start the quarter and scored a touchdown, went ahead by 10. Then that could have been, a lot of teams would have crumbled in that situation, had to come back from 10 points down in that situation. Then they went down 10 again in the fourth quarter and had to bounce back again. So they showed a lot of resiliency in that win, and it was on both sides of the ball. I think that fourth quarter, that was the first time this season you really saw them play complementary football. Yeah. Offensively, they got it going. I mean, Gardner Minshew and Devontae Adams, a connection they had. Brock Bowers got going. The defense making some timely stops. And even on special teams, I mean, obviously Daniel Carlson making the game winner, but, the field position battle was pretty huge in that fourth quarter as well. And so they were rolling in all facets, and that's what it, obviously would take to knock off a team like the Ravens.
What do you see when you put together your podcast and your reporting on the struggles of the team? What's not going right? There's been 8 quarters played. 6 of them were rough, and they're 1-1. But then you see Gardner Minshew, number 1 in completion percentage, 2nd in total yards, and you say, wait, they're not running it well. The offensive line isn't playing well, but they got to win, and they got some decent stats.
Yeah, I think the offensive line is the crux of the issues on offense
Mm-hmm.
right now. I mean, Antonio Pierce, he's talked about it. I mean, they can't run the ball like they did against the Ravens and win sustainably.
Yeah.
I mean, 27 rushing yards on 17 carries, that's not going to get it done. And Gardner Minshew, I mean, he took a beating in that game. I mean, 5 sacks, 10 quarterback hits. He still threw for a lot of yardage, high completion percentage. But something that you've seen is a lot of those throws have been short, quick hitting. They haven't been able to push the ball down the field as much because the offensive line isn't holding up. And so for them to be the offense that they want to be, getting the ground game going, being able to stretch the field vertically, take some shots down the field, they're going to need the offensive line to play better. And we'll see if they're able to start doing that this week against the Panthers.
You have tremendous access in that locker room. Are you talking to the offensive line? How are they handling it? Because I'm sensing Antonio Pierce is getting after them a bit, because he said in the past he sits in their meetings, and if they're not playing well, that's kind of a point of emphasis for him.
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of veteran guys in that room, and so they've been there and done that before. This isn't their first time having some woes. I mean, we saw that unit struggle at the beginning of last season, and then toward the end, the last few games under Antonio Pierce, they made some strides. And, while he is a player's first coach and, they really like how he gets down, he's also not afraid to tell you about yourself, if you're not playing up to par. And there could be consequences as well in terms of your playing time. I mean, we saw them, they started the game with Andrews Pete at left guard. They, weren't playing well enough as a unit. They made a switch in the second half to go to Cody White here. We'll see this week with, Jackson Powers Johnson potentially coming back at least some changes as well. And so, it's not all, free flowing here. There's going to be some accountability if you guys aren't playing up to the caliber that they expect. And the offensive line knows that. They're pros and they're going to handle it accordingly.
Tashan Reed is our guest from The Athletic. How are you covering the story on JPJ? Because we know when we were together in Costa Mesa, he was shut down. Then he comes back and he misses the first 2 games. I thought this would be the great game to start him. If I looked at the schedule and said, do you want to start him against Myles Garrett in Cleveland, or do you want to get him a little sweat going against Carolina? Should we look forward to seeing him?
Yeah, I mean, AP said if he's a better man, he would expect to see 58 out there. Now, in what capacity, we'll see. If that means he's going to start right away or not. That's to be determined, most likely, based on how practice goes this week as they continue to ramp him up. He's been limited in practice the first 2 weeks, and so we'll see if he's able to get to full before game day and be ready to roll. But I think they needed to be cautious in that situation. I know, as fans, people focus a lot on the present, but especially when you're talking about a rookie and a second-round pick, it's about his long-term development and viability moving forward. And, he's a guy that, the injury that he suffered, he had a concussion that ended up being placed on the PUP list. He had concussions in college as well. And, we've seen across the league, Tua Tagovailoa being one of the most prominent examples. You don't want to rush that. It's something you want to take your time with. And I know people are frustrated in the short term, but you have to do what's best for the player and the team long term. And so we'll see if Powers Johnson is able to get out there and get his career rolling this week.
Yeah, I would hope so for him, because he's such a good player and he wants to be a Raider, and you can just see his energy. I want to ask you about your reporting at The Athletic and nationally about the decision to bench Bryce Young. I don't agree with it because he's too important of a piece. He's not a Brock Purdy, the last pick of the draft, or Aiden O'Connell, 4th-round guy. You bench him for Gardner Minshew, he'll be back and playing again. This was a bold decision. Why do you think it's happening against the Raiders as they're coming out here? Is it that desperate for Carolina?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's impulsive decision, but I mean, with that team the last few years, we've seen a lot of that.
The owner.
They basically fire their head coach every year. They're making a quarterback change every year. So it's not surprising from that standpoint, but I do think it was too short of a leash for him. I mean, last year, I don't know what you expected from him, given what they surrounded him with, all the drama with the play calling change and 3 times, I think, before the end of the season, having a coaching change, they have a new staff this year. I mean, 2 games into a new system. I don't know. I feel like he deserved a little bit more of a chance. It has been rough. I'm not going to act like he's been playing well because he hasn't, but it's tough to come back from that. I'm not going to say we haven't seen players do that before. I mean, Alex Smith is a guy that was benched early in his career and ended up, rediscovering himself. Baker Mayfield, ironically, a guy that ended up on the Panthers, and now he's bouncing back with the Bucs. So it's not over with for Bryce Young, I don't think, for his career, but it might be over with the Carolina Panthers, just because I think it's a little bit tough to come back from that.
Well, I'm going to dive into this. Tashan Reed is our guest because in theory, the Raiders should look at a trade in theory, but I don't think they will because where they're at right now. But I know the Dolphins, you mentioned Tua, and you look at this, do you think that the ownership and the management there might look at him and say, we want to move him now? Because if not, they got to rebuild him mentally and physically and put him back in the lab again, or just try to make that move now, because I think there's a lot of teams that would like the first overall pick in the draft from only a year ago. We're not talking 3 or 4 years ago. What do you think is going to happen with that move?
Well, the trade deadline isn't until week 10, so I don't think they necessarily have to decide right now. I mean, you want to see how things go with Andy Dalton. If he goes out there and plays terrible, we could be seeing Bryce Young back on the field sooner than later. And so I think there's some room for them to give it a few weeks and see how things go. But if I was a team that, like you said, whether it was the Miami Dolphins or another team that gets into a more desperate situation as quarterback, and injuries happen every week. So a team that's fine now couldn't be a couple weeks from now. And so I'd be calling about him because I still think he has a chance, what in terms of what the asking price would be, I would expect it to be pretty low. I mean, even though he is a former number 1 overall pick, I mean, that's a hell of a way to tank his value, to bench him 2 games into the season. So I don't think they would get much back if they traded him. And so I think that might be another factor in terms of them holding on to him for a little bit longer.
Wrapping it up with Tashan Reed, I want to get into, you get down in the elevator pretty quick to get down for the locker room session and Antonio Pierce there. What'd you see in the tunnel with this team when they came out and they just got off the field? And this, to me, was just a gorilla off their back, because a lot of fans, and I deal with the fans, were looking at 0-2 on social media at halftime, and it didn't look good at halftime. But then the fans started building up again. I think this is a critical moment for this organization under Tom Telesco and Antonio Pierce to have that bear hug, for the players to celebrate like that, have one of their longest flights home of the year, and come off a win.
Yeah, you saw that passion come out of him. I mean, Tom Telesco, he greeted every coach and player as they were coming off the field. Antonio Pierce gave him a big bear hug. And then a little bit later on, Max Crosby, he came out of the locker room. I think he was headed towards doing the team interview with the team website. And owner Mark Davis was there waiting on him and gave him a big hug. He was shirtless and sweaty and didn't smell too good. I'm sure.
Wow.
Mark Davis was all smiles. So, but like you said, as Max Crosby was walking away, he said some not safe for work words. But generally, the message was, they shut up the doubters, with that one. And so they knew. I mean, I think they were almost double-digit underdogs going into that game. Not many people picked them to win. I mean, I'm not going to act like I wasn't surprised that they pulled out the win either. But that can be something that they can build upon moving forward. Again, it's just one game, but as you said, I mean, you look ahead to the schedule moving forward, that could swing the fortunes of their season. So we'll see how it goes from here. What
have you seen with Luke Getsy? Because it seemed like he just said, look, we're going to lose this game if I don't do something. And he opened up the offense. It's nice when you have Brock Bowers and Tays catching those balls and toe tapping there. But do you think that was a light switch moment to say, look, if we're not running this thing good on the first 10 rushes, we got to go 4 wide and attack? What do you think the Raiders are going to look like going forward?
Yeah, I think in that game they had to adjust. You can't just keep banging your head against the wall. It wasn't working. I mean, they had no offense in the first half. They got to go on a little bit there in the third quarter, but in that fourth quarter, like you said, I mean, there was a lot of 11 personnel. I think 85% of their snaps were in 11 personnel. Feeding the ball to Devontae and Brock Bowers, of course, just spreading it out, dropping back and slinging it. I mean, they would have loved to be able to run the ball better, but it wasn't happening in that game. And so you can't just it's a waste of a snap at that point. And so obviously, I don't think that's sustainable moving forward. Throwing it 40, 50 times a game probably isn't going to work out, that often. And so I think they want to be more balanced still. I think AP said it the other day. He wants, Zamir White in particular to get 20 touches a game. And so I think they're going to keep trying to establish the run, and especially if the offensive line continues to get healthier with Colton Miller while he's been out there coming back from offseason shoulder surgery. If he can get back to being himself, Jackson Powers Johnson, if he can get out there and give them an upgrade at left guard, then maybe that ground game can find some traction this week, and they can get back to being the offense that they want to be.
One more on the roster: how concerned should Raider Nation be on Tyree Wilson and getting him going? I mean, injuries. I don't talk about players when they're injured. When they're injured, they're injured. But he's a little bit different because he's a seventh pick overall, and they're going to need him here as Malcolm Kuntz is on IR. How's he coming along? What are you hearing?
Yeah, I mean, it's important to get him back out there because, I mean, Malcolm Kuntz had high expectations coming into this year. I mean, he came on strong, was one of the better pass rushers in the league, I would say, down the stretch last season. And, he's on IR with the knee injury right now. We're not sure, when he's going to be back, if he's going to be able to be back this season. So they need Tyree Wilson to step up along with the rest of that defensive end room. It can't just be Max Crosby out there making plays. He had a huge game last week against the Ravens. He can take over like that at any given moment. But, toward the end of the game, he had an ankle injury, and we'll see how it goes this week. He's a guy that he's probably going to be out there unless,
I didn't hear that. What's the status on that with Max?
Yeah, he got hurt late in the game. I think it was like the second to last play of the game.
He normally plays. He's going to play through that. But did it look for you at that moment and when you got down there? Because you mentioned Mark Davis and him being out there, that's something that's not going to
I don't think they're worried about it long term. I don't think it's going to be something that keeps him out of the game or anything like that. It's something that he's going to play through, which we saw last season. He played through multiple injuries. But focusing on Tyree Wilson, I mean, you want to see him take some steps forward from last year. It was a bumpy rookie season. They had a lot of expectations for him coming into the year. Like you said, he's injured right now. We'll see if he's able to get back from that knee injury this week. They don't think it's going to be a long-term injury, so he'll be back on the field at some point soon. But whenever he is, he's got to make an impact because they need his help.
Finally, on a personal note, I really like your work. You got a big national following here. What are your goals? What are you looking to do next? Because you cover the Raiders, you cover the NFL, you're podcasting now, you're putting out a lot of content. What's excited about this media space that you're in right now that you look forward to?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just continuing to lean into those different mediums that you talked about, not just the written work, but podcasting, making TV appearances here on radio, with guys like yourself. And then also just finding, nationally relevant stories league-wide to talk about. The Raiders can be that, but also writing about other teams in the league as a whole. And so that's sort of the mission for me moving forward. I'm still early in this career, but trying to keep pushing it.
Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
You got it. That's Tashan Reed, everybody. Appreciate him coming in here as we are back live on Raider Nation Radio, and we're here in the Raiders headquarters podcast studio. What a show. Again, thanks to Tashan. We had Antonio Pierce, Lincoln Kennedy, and Levi Edwards as we're ready to roll here. So I got Jess back in the studio. Bobby is off today. Bobby takes a day off. Bobby works 7 days a week, and we're live up on our YouTube channel. Yeah, all the bricklayers. They like to call themselves the bricklayers as they're in here. This is what it looks like, man. We're in the Raiders headquarters. You won't believe this place. It is ridiculous what's going on here. So that Tashan Reed interview will go up at Raiders.com. You'll find that in the podcast section. And a lot of what we do, we put up in the podcast section here. So as we dive back into the show, we're here for an hour on the Raiders page that just ended. So now I can take some phone calls. I don't go an hour and 20 minutes without talking to you in the Raider Nation. So here's what I want. Here's what I want the rest of the show. I got 40 more minutes to go. And Wednesday feels like Friday to me. And my wife's out of town. My buddies are coming into town. I got Raider fans coming in. We got this live remote Friday at Whiskey Stadium. That's going to get loose. We're going to get loose at that one, man. There's going to be Modelo's flowing. Remember that movie, The Willy Wonka Chocolate Factory, where they went into the factory and all that chocolate was flowing down the slides? There's going to be Modelo's flowing all over Las Vegas as we get rolling here. We're going to have a lot of fun, and we're going to do a lot, and we're going to get ready, and we're going to have a lot of respect for Carolina. We're going to have a lot of respect for Carolina. We're not going to do a lot of this. Oh, JT, 44-10. JT, we're going to win, 35-7. None of that. This is going to be a tight game. They all seem to be tight. Remember, I was there for the 3-0 game in Minnesota. It scarred me. It left a scar right up here. You can see it. It's a little scar left up there. So we need a big win there. We, the season ticket holders, because a lot of fans are going to be showing up. We'll do the broadcast live from the Torch. Eric Allen and myself, Q Myers will be on before that. We'll have a Raider insider. I'm sure we'll have a Raider alumni. And I have a feeling there's going to be some entertainment that's going to take Raider Nation back in the day. I'll just leave it at that. I never break news. I always stay in my lane. I never tell you what's coming when I know it, because I know everything. I don't know everything, player, personnel, locker room stuff, but I kind of know what's going on game day entertainment. This is going to be good. This is going to be good. What's going on there whenever they put it out. And you see what they're going to be able to do there. So we had Levi Edwards on. The big topics of conversation is the Raiders. I started tweeting out today. I started to see some things going down on social media where some of the mainstream media, ESPN and Fox, are talking about the Raiders now. Max won Defensive Player of the Week, and now you're starting to see the Raiders leak into the national media setting. And they can't give that up by losing to Carolina. It can't happen. They got to win that game because that'll get the Raiders to 2-1 with Cleveland coming to town. The dog pound will be here. They will be here in full force, and Raider fans know that. So these are the games you got to win. Not a lot of people thought they beat Baltimore. The players did. Ownership did. The GM did. The head coach who was here did. But a lot had to happen for them to come and win that game. Around the league, Tua's not going to play until week 8. That's because the league. Don't believe anything when they say the Dolphins put him on IR. The Dolphins, that's just the fine print. The Dolphins didn't. It was the league. No way Roger Goodell's going to let Tua come out on a football field until he has weeks of being away. And now that Bryce Young situation is interesting. Would Miami be interested in making a trade for that? As we've wrapped up week 2, the Raiders had the biggest win. The Raiders had the biggest win, and it was a comeback down 10. The only other game that was bigger with a comeback was Atlanta over Philadelphia. The way they won that game, Saquon Barkley dropping a ball down the stretch there, and Kirk Cousins goes the length of the field to win. That was probably the most dramatic win. And then New Orleans and Derek Carr, the way he's playing, New Orleans is 2-0, and Baker Mayfield's 2-0. So the two best quarterbacks underway to start the season off are Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield. I also want to hear from Raider Nation exactly on your assessment. I wanted to get a good topic for the last 40 minutes of the show. And I want you to look at the stats, but I wanted to get your gut feeling on Gardner Minshew. This is important because Gardner Minshew hasn't played great, but his stats look good because of the completion percentage. Tashan Reed brought up a really good point. He's been sacked 5 times and he had 10 quarterback hits. I failed by bringing that up here because let me tell you something. When you get hit 10 times and sacked 5 times, you're in the tub. You're in the ice bath. You're seeing the trainers. There's not many guys that can survive that many hits. And he survived a lot of those hits there. How is he going to look here in this game and bounce back? So I want your analysis and your opinion on Gardner Minshew through 2 games, because there's still some Raider fans that want to see Aiden O'Connell. I can show you my Twitter. I mean, they came flying after me last game in the first and second quarter. Go with AOC, put him back in the game, go, go, go. And I think we're all honest about it. I think that probably was a little bit of a consideration to go back to him and see what he can do. And it didn't happen because Gardner Minshew came out and led the Raiders to a 10-point comeback victory in the final 12 minutes. The final 12 minutes of that game, you can stack that up in any era. You can stack it up with Stabler. You can stack it up with Gannon. You can go back to Tim Brown, whoever you want. What Gardner Minshew did in that comeback was one for the 65-year ages. Because, look, the greatest Raider teams went to the Super Bowl and won. The greatest Raider teams were automatically in the playoffs. This team was not considered one of those teams, and they had a victory in their 65 years of being established in week 2 on the road down 10. That's going to be a game that I'm never going to forget, but only if they beat Carolina. Everything is gone if you don't beat Carolina. Everything is gone, and it's a disaster. So I don't want to kind of lead us down that road, but I want to hear from some fans right now. 702-365-9200. Our conversation with the head coach brought to you by La Casa Cigars. La Casa. Oh, La Casa Cigars, live entertainment tonight. Tivoli Village is where you go. Underground parking. You can park and just walk up there. You can have a stick like Lincoln Kennedy and I do. Have a cigar, have a cocktail, and we'll get rolling here. We got a lot more to get to. So we got about 40 minutes to go before I'm going to get a little lunch and start the weekend. Yes, I'm starting the weekend on Wednesday this week. I'm going to reward myself this week and then get ready for Fred Bolitnikoff on Thursday and the great Charles Woodson on Friday. Find us on YouTube at JT the Brick YT and come on back because you're inside Raider Nation right now. You're actually in the building. Hey, Jess, just if you get calls lined up, just text them to me. You know, and here's what I would do is I would take 3 at a time. Don't worry about the 4th, 5th, 6th. Just get the 3 in the order and put them in that order, and we'll take them 1, 2, 3. Okay? Okay, Carlos? Okay, we'll take him first and then text me the other ones. And if one hangs up on hold, just get in my ear and say Mike hung up or Carlos, whatever you need to do. What's up, man? What do you think? We're at the Raiders headquarters, man. Look at this. What do you think, man? What a show today. What a show. What a big show. I need a break for a second. Tivoli Village. You're going to be blown away like I was. I stepped into their walk-in humidor, over 500 cigar labels to choose from. Plus, they feature one of the largest whiskey, scotch, and bourbon selections anywhere in the valley with live local entertainment 7 nights a week. Great place to watch football games. Check it out at LaCasaCigars.com. JT for Woodson Bourbon Whiskey. Hall of Famer Charles Woodson built his legend on the gridiron, and now he's taking the same dedication to his new craft spirit line, Woodson Bourbon Whiskey.
So, Raider Nation, this show by Charles Woodson here to tell you all about my new Woodson Bourbon Whiskey. Woodson Bourbon Whiskey is both bold and smooth, and is the perfect addition to your next tailgate party.
That's good. Wow, man, this is cool. The Raiders just gave me a nice gift. I don't know what's in it. A nice gift here. Look at this. Where's Mark? You want Mark Davis? All right. Oh, man. All right. So how cool is this, man? The evolution of the show. Started in 1998 on the Ticket 1050, and now we're in a multi-million-dollar studio. No one has this, man. No one has this, man. Unless, you got Pat McAfee, Coward, other shows that have it, man. But, this is a dream for me, man, to be able to do this. Woo! What's going on here, man? You want me to open that gift? Wow, let's see what this is. Wow. Woo-hoo-hoo! Whoa, cigar humidor. How about that? Man, that's nice. Tell you, man, they treat me well around here. I'm lucky to be a part of this. Thank you. And we have Carlos, right? $30 more for Devontae. Jason Horowitz on the call. JT back with you on the flagship of the Silver and Black Raider Nation Radio. So those on the YouTube channel got a chance. The Raiders just brought me a gift. I just opened up a beautiful gift they gave me, a cigar case for some of the work I did for them on the state of the team. So I greatly appreciate this from our team in the other room, and they just surprised me with a nice, really cool gift. So thank you to the team out there, led by Kiava and Panos and all my friends on the other side who do such a great job, my friends here. That's super cool. I did not expect that today. So we're taking your calls the rest of the way. We're still celebrating the win, but we're on to Carolina. Carolina's on my mind, man. I've been down this road many, 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 many times in my 27 years here. Don't count your kegs before they're tapped. It was a big thing in college for me. I was the president of my fraternity, the DKs. We always had these massive keg parties, like 30 kegs. Can you imagine having a party with 30 kegs? Hundreds of people. And we'd always say, man, we're going to get 30 kegs. I said, don't count the kegs until they're tapped. The only kegs we count are the ones that are finished because we got to return the other ones, man. If we don't drink those other ones, we got to return them. So that's a term I've used my whole career. Don't count your kegs before they're tapped. Don't count Carolina as a win until Sunday with about 3 minutes left or a minute left. Let's go beat Carolina and go to 2-1. It makes my life beautiful. Beautiful. 2-1. Carlos, start us off, man. Thanks for waiting. You're live at Raiders headquarters. What do you got?
JT the Brick, how's it going?
I'm doing great. You?
I'm good, brother. Thank you so much for asking. Hey, I go by True Raider online, but that's neither here, neither there. I've been a fan since 1989.
Wow.
Back when I was 6 years young, the Silver Black chose me back during the LA days. But anyway, like you said, let's not count our kegs to their tap, because this Sunday's game has the feeling of a classic trap game, and I'll tell you why. It's an NFC opponent who the Raiders don't normally play, going against a veteran quarterback, Dalton, who was 4-0 against the Silver and Black.
Mm-hmm.
I always dislike when the national media starts jumping on the hype train, and that's when things go backwards for us. But nonetheless, we have to establish the run, which we will.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be physical, and we will dominate. We will definitely dominate. I'm not going to give you a score prediction, how it's going to be one lopsided.
Listen, the phones are quiet today. I'm the only guy with energy. I'm the only guy that brings the A game every day. You know, people are falling asleep. I got 30 minutes to go. I need a score. Give me a score over Carolina.
Okay, 30-17.
Thank you, my friend. I'll take that. Appreciate the call. Thank you, Jess. Appreciate the call. 30-17. That sounds about right. You know, I think 28-21, 31-17, whatever it is. No doubt. I mean, I don't think it's going to be easy. I don't. I think Carolina's a professional football team that's been drafting. You know, they didn't get it right with Bryce Young yet, but they've been drafting high. They got rid of Brian Burns. They lost one of their best players defensively. And I think they're going to make adjustments. I think the big adjustment, the Carolina is looking at the Raiders, and here's what I think they're saying. And that opens up a line for you, 702-365-9200 if you want to get through. Again, I had Antonio Pierce, Lincoln Kennedy, Tashan Reed today, and Levi Edwards. They all got through. It's your turn now to get going. I think Carolina, if I'm looking at Canales and what the game plan is going to be, it's going to be the Raiders aren't running the ball well. They're not. The Raiders aren't running the ball well. Let them try to run. We got to cover the pass. So I think that what they're going to do is have Horn on the outside with Devontae and a double team over the top. And this is probably the first game in his NFL career where Brock Bowers is going to be getting a lot of attention, a tremendous amount of attention from the opposing defensive coordinator. Where if Brock came into the league and he had 2 receptions and then 4 and he had 6 total, you know, the opponent's looking around saying, all right, Brock Bowers is going to be great, but he's not going to be great his rookie year. Now Brock looks unbelievable. Let's double team Brock. Let's bring a safety down in the box to put his hands on Brock. Wherever Brock's going to be, if he's lining up in the slot, someone's got to put their hands on Brock Bowers. You cannot let him run free. And for those who have been listening to me for over 25 years or 25 minutes, I've made my name on this one point with Travis Kelce. I lose my mind. I literally lose my mind when the Raiders play Travis Kelce and they don't put their hands on him. And he gets a free release off the line of scrimmage. We all know Mahomes is going to go to it. And Kelce has 4 receptions for 4 touchdowns or 10 receptions. Well, I think it's time that Brock Bowers gets that Kelce type of respect where linebackers and nickel corners are going to put their hands on him. Now, I don't know exactly what happens in practice here with Nate Hobbs, but Nate Hobbs is the type of guy who can put his hands on someone and slow him down. And I think you're going to see that with Brock. So that opens it up for Michael Mayer, doesn't it? I think it opens it up for Michael Mayer. I think it opens it up for Trey Tucker. And will this be the game on the first series? I'm talking first 3 plays of the game. First 3 plays. Play action to Zeus. Deep drop for Gardner, 7 yards, and a bomb. A flat-out bomb go route to Trey Tucker. So what's going to happen on that play? He's either going to catch it. He's either going to catch it or it's going to get broken up, or there's going to be a flag on the play, holding on the defense on Trey Tucker, and the Raiders open up with a big game. I'd like to see something like that go down. Violator is checked in on the YouTube live stream at JT the Brick YT. Violator will be with me on Friday at Whiskey Stadium as we do that remote, and we're excited about that. All right, here come the callers. Let's jump in here. Orlando from Connecticut on the Raiders mobile app. Go ahead.
JT, my brother, thank you for having me. Apologies for yesterday. I was a little animated. I was at the game. Wow, the Silver and Black show
Oh, you're the guy who used profanity. I put you in the penalty box, and now you're out. You're out of the penalty box. Welcome back. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hey, little prediction for this weekend. Hey, after watching that game live, listen, we did falter with the offensive line. The running back didn't do what we were supposed to do, but man, there was a lot of possessions, JT. But there was 8, 9 in the box, and they were struggling against that run. Later on in the game, they loosened up on the pass, and things started to work out. I'm hoping that's the same situation this coming weekend against Carolina. This is not a trap game. That would have been a trap game for us in the past. There's no way that defense is in store for a trap game. I think we're really going to put it on those guys. I'm calling it 31-17. Let's go Raiders.
All right. Shields up 31-17 for the Raiders. Sounds about right. Yeah, it does sound about right. I think you got to go into this game thinking you're going to score 30 points and you're going to hold the opponent under 20. I can live with that. I think the game's going to be a little bit closer. Usually when people ask my prediction of games, I always have it really close. I don't like going down the road of predicting blowouts. Kenny, the bricklayer, checking in here. Kenny, appreciate you watching the show and calling it. What do you got for me? Kenny is gone. Brazy in Vegas here. Go ahead, buddy. What's happening?
Raiders have a big win, come down and have a letdown. They want to see a new era of Raiders football with their boys. But then this is when it happens. We come into the stadium, everybody's there blacked out. We're in the J-Lock party early. We come out and our defense goes after these guys. I don't want 17 points. I don't want 7 points. You think Carolina's offense is as good as Baltimore? It's close to what they got going on in San Diego? No, these guys shouldn't get nothing. Offense gets going. Let's beat these guys down. I want nothing less. I'm tired of it. New era. Let's go get some wins. Let's go get some rings. It starts now with AP and everybody coming together and get up to Matt. Coming to the quarterback. We got you. I think, like you've been saying, that's going to be key for the Las Vegas era. And one last thing, JPJ, you get in there.
Yeah.
The Guardian cap. You're the first guy to wear the Guardian cap. We need you. Who cares you look silly? You said you've been looking silly all your life and being the odd man out. Start it in the NFL. Come in there. Kick some ass. Bring some energy. And let's push these fools around this weekend.
It's very interesting that you said the Guardian cap because Michael Irvin, I was watching FS1 and Michael Irvin's a friend. And I've known Michael a long time. And he said, why wasn't Tua wearing the Guardian cap? And I tweeted that out. I was like, that makes a lot of sense. So Tua, who's going to come back, he's not going to retire. He's a good player. He just got a massive $200+ million contract that he's got to wear the Guardian cap the rest of his career. Now, fans are fighting back because every fan thinks they're a neurologist or a doctor. That's what fans do. I'm a fan. And they're saying to themselves, well, the helmet isn't going to save his head. Yeah, it is. Tua gets concussed easier than other players. I don't know why. I have no idea why. So he's got to wear a new helmet, one of those kazoo helmets, those big helmets, and then you put the Guardian wrap over it. And if Jackson Powers Johnson wants to wear that, I'm fine. Eventually, they're going to make a new helmet. We're going to evolve, and they're going to have a thicker helmet with more inside and more outside. That's what the league does. But this is interesting. I mean, I'd like to see Jackson Powers Johnson play in this game. I think this is a good game to roll him out. This is a good game to say, hey, we're going to throw you in against a team. They're a good team. This is your first game. It's the home opener. And we start this great run for him, no doubt about it. Epic Raider from Colorado is checking in on the Raiders mobile app, live from Raiders headquarters.
Yo, JT, this is Epic Raider coming out of Donkeyville, man.
Donkeyville. Is that what they're called? Denver's been in the news a lot lately. They got this guy named Bo Nix. Everybody wasted my summer telling me, Bo Nix, Bo Nix, Bo Nix. He's going to the Super Bowl. Bo Nix. How's that working out?
Bo Nix. I told you last time I called in. A bunch of hype. Hey, man, me and G-Raider, we fly out tomorrow. We're going to that home opener. We're bringing the ruckus. We're going to try to find you at that remote. My prediction, 24-3 Raiders, man. We're going to bring the energy.
Ooh, 24-3. You don't think the Red Rocket, Andy Dalton's going to throw a touchdown? You're talking about shutting out the Red Rocket?
I hate the color red. Who cares about the Red Rocket? He ain't going to do nothing. He ain't doing nothing.
All right. I look forward to seeing you. We're at Whiskey Stadium. See you at Whiskey Stadium, noon to 2. Brought to you by Modelo. And I want to give a shout out to my buddy Alex in Orlando, the DeCastroverde Law Group, 702-222-9999. If you get into an accident or injured, got to get them in every show. And really appreciate them. And let me give another shout out to Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers. Got home last night. I'm looking around my kitchen. There's a box of Canes. My son's a Caniac. He got me the box combo. Had a little bit, saved the other half for today. Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers. One love. Jess is doing an unbelievable job back at Lotus, running the show. If you want to get in, last call, 702-365-9200. Live from inside the Raider Nation on the flagship. All right, Jess, we're doing great. Keep it up. All right, what's going on? Everybody behaving in the chat? Everybody good? Do we got all friends? Do we have any sneaky guys in here? Anybody else sneaking around? Yeah, man, everyone's really active in the chat, man. Really appreciate it. What's in the box? Yeah, the Raiders gave me this cigar case, which was nice. That was nice. Nice gift. Well, I appreciate people watching and listening, man. Thanks so much.
Attention plumbers, HVAC, TI wires, and construction pros. McFadden Industrial Hardware has everything you need for your next project. Open early at South Decatur and Russell.
What else is happening? Is there any other breaking news that I didn't see? Normally I'm on top of this, but I haven't been able to come up for air here. What are we looking at today? NFL. Some breaking news here. The Rams are really injured bad. Bryce Young still big news. Man, everybody's asking me to come on their radio show today, man. I'm pretty busy. 445 ESPN LA. All right. Well, Adrian Wojnarowski retired today, man. I was surprised by that. To be the general manager of the St. Bonaventure. Anybody know where St. Bonaventure is? I got a good story on St. Bonaventure. That's in Buffalo, outside of Buffalo. So I played rugby in college, and I scored at St. Bonaventure. When you put the ball down, it's called the try, and you put it down in the end zone area. But I couldn't see it because it was a snowstorm. So I scored and was running out of the end zone. And one of my teammates got me down. So one of my own teammates got me down because I didn't see the end line. I was running out of the end zone, and I got in and I scored, and we won by a small margin. And that was kind of my rugby claim to fame in college. I didn't score a lot, played number 8. And that was a big moment at St. Bonaventure, where they have a Bob Lanier sneaker. I think he wore a size 16 shoe, and they have it in bronzed in one of the glass cases back there. Woj. Breaking news, Raiders have the best cigar humidifiers. They do. They're very good. Violator, if we can get a cohesive running game, I believe that we will be good Sunday. Hey, Violator, I watched that. The thing you did with Sibley was fantastic on the black hole. It's a great broadcast. I encourage everybody to go to Raiders.com, Talk of the Nation, and see the feature on the black hole. That was really well done. Okay. Do you have to restart the calls? Do we have anybody there? Yeah.
viewing headquarters. The Tailgater Tavern at Russell and Valley View, your gateway to the stadium.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by Comisario Tequila, the official tequila of the JT the Brick Show.
Lamar Jackson 1st and 10 on his own 30 after the touchback. Shotgun, back to throw, eyeing the right. Crosby in his face, and he drives him to the turf at the 17. Crosby with his second sack of the game. Oh, man, it's a loss of 13 yards.
It's Jason Horowitz on the call, the Max Crosby sack, and that was a big one in the fourth quarter. JT, back with you from inside the Raiders facility as we continue on. I'm on my YouTube channel, JT the Brick YT. We got about 130 people in there. We appreciate it. We did a live stream the other night, and we're doing more and more. So everybody else out there, we appreciate it. And again, Levi Edwards has a new column out on the 16 Raiders that are on the Hall of Fame list, which hopefully a few will get real good consideration as we continue here. So as we look around the AFC West, the Chargers and the Chiefs are 2-0. I mean, how are the Chargers 2-0? I mean, Justin Herbert's thrown for 130 yards. Well, they're running it, and they have a new head coach in Jim Harbaugh that wants to run the football down your throat. And they ran it against the Raiders well, and they ran it right down Carolina's throat. I went back and looked at the Charger game. They made good throws. They worked off play action, and they ran the ball. And the Chargers defense played pretty well, and Bryce Young was a mess in that game. Oh, I wish he was playing in this game. Kansas City could be 0-2. They're 2-0. Got a nice little flag-happy call at the end of that game. What else is new? Raiders are 1-1, and the Broncos are 0-2. Looking back at the three big things from the last game, Minshew, Devontae, and Bowers led the Raiders' passing attack in the second half. They were spectacular. Max Crosby, the AFC Defensive Player of the Week. Robert Spillane, Jacorian Bennett, standout games for the Raiders. And I thought the Raiders coaching staff had a great game. Antonio Pierce won the game, and he outcoached John Harbaugh. Patrick Graham shut down Lamar. Getsy opened up the offense. That's second half adjustments. Give Getsy credit for that. And AP's decision-making versus Harbaugh was clutch. Now, with the Raiders' stats, man, they ran the ball for 27 yards total. That's awful. They got to run the ball better. Raiders had 3 penalties for 15 yards. The Ravens had 11 for 109. Wow. And Raiders are 2 out of 3 in the end zone. So the reaction to the game was fantastic, and the Raiders' defense kept the team rolling in the second half. Spillane had 10 total tackles, 8 solos, an interception. Bennett had 2 tackles, big ones, 2 solos, 2 pass defended. And I thought we saw a pretty good game out of Jack Jones, who didn't get a lot of press coming out of that game. The key to that game, which I'll never forget, is that the Raiders' last 3 possessions versus the Ravens, in my game notes here, Las Vegas, a field goal, a touchdown, a field goal, 13 points in the final 12-11 of the game. Baltimore, punt, end of game, 0 points in final 12 minutes and 11 seconds. That game was total domination by the silver and black down the stretch. Joel in California on the Raiders mobile app. What's going on, Joel?
JT, thanks for taking my call, man.
Thank you.
Call to your show, but go back to that question of with Gardner, right? And he became. I mean, he was always. I was definitely halftime for sure, AOC, but at the same time, AOC would have got touched out 1,000 times that game. I'm sorry, he's just not mobile enough. But the moment Gardner solidified himself after everything was when Max Crosby pushed him in his chest, and he had to make a choice. I'm either going to wilt or I'm going to freaking step up and do it. And he did that. And it was just, I don't care, how ugly it looks, as long as we're winning. That's all that matters. Prediction for this Sunday's game, 31-10 Raiders, and I'm out.
Oh, another 31-10, 34-17. That's where we're living. We're living in that moment where a lot of Raider fans are calling in today talking about Raiders scoring in the 30s, which I agree with. I think they can put up 30 in this game, and can they hold Andy Dalton, the Red Rocket, to under 10 points? I'd say no. I mean, I like the Raider defense. I think the Raider defense is awesome. I just got a lot of respect for Andy Dalton and his ability to stabilize this team. They're going to simplify everything. I don't think they're going to come in with some elaborate hook and ladder, flea flickers and all this. I could be wrong. I think they're going to come in and they're just going to get the ball out quickly, kind of what the Raiders need to do, and the Raiders are doing on offense. Getting the ball out quickly and trying to move the chains. The Raiders' strength is their short passing game. Let me make that clear. Okay, the Raiders' strength is their short passing game, anywhere from 5 to 12 yards. They haven't proven that they can throw it deep. They haven't. They've proven that Gardner can throw the ball to the tight end, Brock Bowers, in space. That's nice. Devontae on the sidelines is a wizard. The Raiders have proven they can't run the ball through 2 weeks. They're going to have to change that. So the strength of the Raiders is the short passing game. But what happens when you need a 3rd and 3 and a 3rd and 4 and 3rd and 6, and you want to pass it, you got to worry about the other team knocking the ball down, breaking up, deflecting the ball, and then you're off. Then you punt. So when you put the ball in the air on 3rd down, there's some things that could go wrong. When you're able to run the ball aggressively hard on 3rd down and pick up 3-4 yards, then you don't have to worry about putting the ball in the air and having it deflected at the line of scrimmage. You don't have to worry about anything. You're just able to run the ball, and you're able to run the ball hard and make things happen. And that's what the Raiders need to do. Pick up 1st downs with Zamir White and then work play action off Zamir White. And what I'd like to see here, and I think I've been pretty bleeping good with my analysis in the first 2 games with Getsy, the thing that I'd like to see is the pitch toss to Zamir White. I want to hand the ball up the middle into the pile, please. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked. Maybe it works this week. Carolina knows that if the Raiders run up the middle, the Raiders are giving up a play. I don't want to give up any plays. You're going to run it on 1st down. I know you're going to run it up the middle. Let's toss it. Let's toss it out on the perimeter to Zamir. Let Brock Bowers block and Jacoby Myers block. So you have Brock in the slot, Jacoby to the right, Devontae to the left, Michael Mayer there blocking. You just toss it to Zeus. And let's see what Brock Bowers can do in the blocking game. Let's see what he's able to do there. I'm interested in seeing that. The Raiders won despite a really bad rushing performance, 27 rushing yards on 17 attempts. Woo! I don't want to see that ever again. I don't want to see that at all. I'd like to see Max be able to dominate the game. I don't know how he's feeling coming off getting tweaked at the end of the game. I'll text him. I'll talk to Max at some point coming in here. And game-changing plays was for the Raiders. They had a couple of game-changing plays. They got a pass interference call in the end zone. But when Devontae was there, that pass interference on Stevens was big for 16 yards because the Raiders right after that scored on a 1-yard touchdown to Devontae. We really enjoyed that. Carlson making the 38-yard game-winning field goal was huge. I thought he had a really good game. So I want to thank everybody today. Jess did an amazing job in for Bobby, the entire team here. So if you miss any portion of the show, the Raiders will put it up. It's called Raiders Rundown. So I do Raiders Roundtable every Monday with Eric Allen and Rich Gannon. That's up at Raiders.com. The first hour of the show on Wednesday is made for TV and for streaming. It's called Raiders Rundown. That is up and going to be up here after the show today in a couple of hours. And then we get ready for our remote on Friday. So I want to see everybody show up for me at Whiskey Stadium, right across from the stadium on Friday. Noon to 2, you're allowed to have lunch. If you're in Vegas, your boss will let you leave lunch. You could lie to your boss and say you're running an errand, getting your tires worked on. Come on down to Whiskey Stadium. The parking's right there, easy to park. And then come on in. We'll have some special guests. We'll have some Modelo prizes. And we'll do that on Friday, and then we'll head into the weekend. UNLV football is a great story. Mark Davis's, Larry Delson, the entire Las Vegas Aces. Playoffs are here. Becky Hammond going for a three-peat. And the Golden Knights have their first preseason game on Sunday. Man, that happened pretty quick. And we'll get into some Golden Knight content there. For everybody on the YouTube stream, thank you very much. We'll catch you tomorrow, as I'll be back in the Lotus Studios for that. And then Friday, we're out on the road. I'll thank all of our proud partners like I always do. We'll go through a big list tomorrow, and we're going to have a great time, everybody. And thanks to the Raiders for giving me this nice, beautiful gift, a cigar box, for some of the work that I was doing here for the Premium Suite crew. Appreciate that very much. So have a good rest of your day. Thanks, Jess. Back in the studio. You were fantastic today, and everybody who put the show together. Q's coming up. He's front and center for the press conference, which I didn't get a chance to hear today. We had Antonio Pierce in studio with me. I'm sure there's a lot to be said there, and Q's got a ripping 3 hours lined up for you. Thanks again, everybody. What a great day. What a blessing to be here. Thank you. for listening and watching now, the new element of that show. And we'll see you back tomorrow on the flagship of the Silver and Black. This is Raider Nation Radio. Thank you.